Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. In the video for today, we are going to go over how I actually find new tokens and how I do research on all the tokens that I look at. So after watching this video, you should have a really good understanding of what to look for on these newer tokens and also what you should be looking out for on older tokens that potentially might be on dips or whatever the case may be. Before we jump into that though, let's take a quick look at what the one Solana challenge wallet looks like. As some of you might be able to tell, I've added a few new positions here and it's nice to see some of our positions recovering a little bit. So let's just talk about this really quick. So basically things are the same across most of my positions, but ALR, we did trim about 75k tokens this morning because it pumped up to 5 mil, which was a 2x from one of my pings in Telegram. SW query, we have actually been adding to this position. If you want to see why, go check out my Telegram. Coder GF, same thing. We've slightly been adding to this at like the 850k range. Gem XBT, we actually just added this morning. I think that it has fallen within my range, so I am adding to it at around the 2.5 mil range. Waveform is one that I covered yesterday. It fell into my DCA range at around 10 mil, and I have been adding to it over the past 24 hours. And then Glitch Gremlin, we are just holding. I'm not going to sell this for a loss yet, but things have been pretty slow for this one. And in this video, you're actually going to learn how I research these tokens, how I stay up to date with these positions, and really how I'm making decisions as things evolve with these tokens. So let's talk about that now. Okay, so the way that I personally research tokens varies drastically if it is an AI token or if it's a meme token or if it's a narrative token, etc. So we're just going to break down all of these things and build an ongoing list of things that you should be paying attention to on the different types of tokens that we'll release. And we'll also structure this kind of like a Venn diagram, and we'll add a column here for both. And really the goal that we are working towards with any research we're doing is discovering whether or not it is worth the risk of investing. Okay, so basically in any token that I'm researching, these 8 things are always things that I am paying attention to. So we're going to actually go through this list and break down what these things are and where you can actually research these things. Okay, and then we're going to go over specifically what I look for in AI tokens versus what I look for specifically in meme tokens. So this is what the list actually looks like after recording the video, so stay tuned. I'm going to break all of this stuff down in detail. Okay, so for any token, we're talking about the both section here, whether it's an AI coin or a meme coin, we are always going to be looking at the distribution of the top holders. And what we're really looking for here is we want to understand and really feel comfortable about the fact that if the top holders of this token were to sell their supply, is it going to make a significant impact on the price of the token? What we do not want to see here is a large percentage of the token supply being held by a small number of people in the top 10 or top 20, for example, because if these people decide to sell their tokens, it will significantly impact the price of the token. So we always want to be looking for an even distribution of the token supply amongst all of the holders of the token. And to be honest, with this token, the percentages look pretty good here. Okay, and now let's move down the list and look at the second bullet point. And by the way, these aren't in any particular order, so this is just something that I do basically with every token that I look at. Okay, so let's try and look for the team now, okay? And I'll just be honest, it's usually much easier to find the team of a token for an AI token than a meme coin token, so that's why we're going to do examples on both of these. Okay, so how I'm looking for the team now is going to be through Twitter or maybe their Telegram, but usually I'll check Twitter before anything else. Okay, so I'm on their Twitter now, and usually for these meme coins, it's really hard to find the team behind them, and they're usually ran by the community. But in this case, what I'm going to be doing is looking through the following section, so people that this account is following, and I can pretty much assume that these people are probably the team. Okay, and right here actually this guy says in his bio that he is the Concho lead, so this would be kind of the main team member, I guess you could say, because he is actually claimed to be the team member. Okay, so normally what I would be looking for is this person's past tweets to see if, you know, basically if they have worked on other projects in the past or just like get some basic information about who this person is. Okay, and just going through his account, I can see that, you know, he's been like in the crypto space, I guess, since Jan 12, 2022. And I don't think that he's been really a part of any other tokens in the past. So no real glaring red flags. I mean, his account has been active now for a pretty long time. So all of this stuff so far isn't really bad. And then maybe something else I might do is go through who he's following or who his followers are, just to see if he has any connections to the space. The only thing I'm really doing with verifying like the team in this case scenario is just trying to reassure myself basically that this person isn't a rugger and this person isn't trying to pull any games. Okay, so I think you guys probably get the point. I'm basically verifying if the person is legitimate or not, or, you know, if there are any glaring red flags that might, you know, tell me that I might not want to purchase the token. Moving down the list, let's talk about social presence quickly. This is kind of the same story. I'm basically wanting to see a lot of activity and a lot of posts on their profiles, right? Especially for a meme coin. You know, if it's a meme coin, their Twitter is 99% of their value proposition. So I want to make sure that they are active and putting out good content. And that kind of goes hand in hand with the next thing on the list, which is relevancy. And the best way for these tokens to stay relevant is to, again, post good content and stay very active. So I want to see posts every 2 hours. I want to see, you know, good high quality posts of things like what I'm looking at right now, right? Things that might help people get behind this token. So another thing worth mentioning on this token specifically is that this frog was on the album cover for Bad Bunny's new album. That might be a reason why a lot of people might get behind it. So again, these are kind of the things I'm looking for. I'm not saying that I bought this token or anything of the sort. This is just how I would look at these things. Okay, so the next thing on this list is narrative, and it goes kind of hand in hand with relevancy. And as I just explained, people would argue that in this case, the narrative here is that, you know, this token might become very popular because a lot of people will be listening to the Bad Baby album and they'll become familiar with this frog. To be honest, I don't really play into a lot of that stuff. So obviously do your own research, but that is what people, I would assume, are arguing with this particular token. As I've explained in some of my other videos, there are some narratives that are really, really big and they are very hard to ignore. So narrative can be a very big part of meme coins specifically, and they also can make a big impact on AI tokens as well. So that is why I like to pay attention to them. Okay, and the next thing on this list is holders. And the only way that this really differs from distribution is simply because I like to sometimes check through some of the top holders on a particular token just to give me a better sense of how strong the community might be. So, you know, if this person has, you know, $9 million in their wallet and they're holding a large majority of peanut, that to me might tell me something, right? So sometimes it can be very important and also very telling to check out some of the top holders on a token, and also just seeing what other tokens they hold. So for example, I mean, this person has $2 million, $2.5 million worth of Act 1, which is an AI token that I know off the top of my head is very prevalent in the space. So this might tell me that this person is, you know, very knowledgeable on the token, or they might know something that I don't. And that is why I like to check the top holders on tokens. So the top holders basically sometimes can tell you the strength or legitimacy of the community. And that is why I like to pay attention to that. Okay, and the next thing on this list is value proposition. And as you can probably assume for yourself, the value proposition on AI tokens is normally very different than the value proposition on meme tokens. I would say generally speaking, there is no value proposition on a meme token and there is a value proposition on an AI token, but in the majority of cases, the value proposition for a meme coin will essentially just be its narrative. So basically, to recap, you can think of a value proposition as essentially a narrative for a meme coin because, again, meme coins inherently don't have really any value. But for an AI token, there is sometimes a big value proposition with what they're doing with their technology. So that is the difference in how you can think about those two things. And then the last thing on this list that I pay attention to with both AI coins and meme coins is their originality, right? Because if you paid attention to some of my previous videos, you know that there are different metas and there are different sub metas within those metas. So it's important to really keep track of what tokens are leading those pushes and, you know, what tokens are kind of following in those tokens tracks. So if we look at this Concho token as an example, right, it's saying that it's the Hispanic Pepe. So it's kind of trying to ride off the coattails of Pepe, which is a popular meme coin on Ethereum. and obviously just a popular narrative overall in the space. So in this example, I don't really think that this is very original, to be totally honest, because again, it's kind of claiming to be the Hispanic version of Pepe. But with that being said, this token hasn't been launched before, right? There aren't other Concho characters, so this is kind of in its own little market segment. And as you can tell, it's trying to form its own little narrative with the whole Bad Bunny album cover storyline. So again, this would probably get a check mark on my list, but it's not the most original concept. But okay, that is a quick and basic rundown on all the things that I look for at a basic level. No matter what the token is, these are the things that I'm always looking at and always considering before I'm making any decisions. Okay, so now let's compare that to what I would specifically look at in just the AI meta alone. So as you can see, this list is quite different. Okay, so these are just some of the things that I'm going to be looking at and considering when I am doing my research on any of the AI tokens. And the first thing on this list is the legitimacy of a GitHub, right? So is this team pushing code up? Is this team actively contributing to their GitHub? How many stars does it have? How many people are viewing it, etc., etc.? How many tokens are they locking? If they are locking a percentage of the supply, how long are these tokens going to be locked for? And then just some other basic questions like, does the tech work? Is it a high quality piece of technology, right? Is it really buggy? Is it super glitchy? How does this work and what is it specifically doing? Then I'm looking at things like, is the team actively posting and managing the Twitter accounts and just all of their things on social media? This kind of falls in line with the social presence bullet point here in the shared list. And then things like their marketing prowess, what does their brand imagery look like? Are they consistently posting on social media, et cetera, et cetera? And then more importantly, kind of the tokenomics, the quality of the team, and if they have a community behind them. And really quickly before we jump into examples, tokenomics basically means, is there actually a reason to buy the token? So for example, with ALR, a token that we've been buying for a while, if you own a certain percentage of the tokens, you are actually granted access to use the tool. So basically that's what I mean by tokenomics. Is there an incentive to actually hold these tokens? And also tokenomics refers to how much of the supply is in the liquidity pool, how much of the supply is owned by the team, et cetera, et cetera. So it's just basically all the information about the supply of the token. So guys, a perfect example of this is when we went over the Pudgy Penguins token distribution and tokenomics. This is what I mean by that. So it's just a split and breakdown of what is going on with the supply. Okay, but let's actually go over some of these examples so that you guys can see exactly what I'm doing when I'm looking through some of these things. Okay, so let's just jump into an example with SW Query. And if you guys didn't know why I was buying this will be a good example and a good way to kill two birds with one stone. Okay, first things first, let's check out their GitHub. Okay, so here on their GitHub, right away, we can actually see the contributors and who is actually behind this project, which is a great start. And we also can see all of the things that they're working on here and the exact dates when they pushed this code. So personally, I love to see when they have been, pushing code for over a month. There have been 136 commits to this repository so far. There are 17 stars. 3 people are watching this actively. A lot of these are really good signs right off the bat. Again, one of the red flags I see in a lot of GitHubs is when, these are all within the same day. So like if all of these on this list said something like, 14 hours ago or 12 hours ago, whatever the case may be, if it was within the day, I usually automatically assume that those developers are just trying to fake GitHub activity. So I like to see how these are all different dates here. And let's actually just go into some of these folders just to see if, okay, so as you can see here, they have been working on this for a good amount of time, and they aren't just continuously pushing junk up every day just to make it seem like they're doing things. This activity seems pretty hard to replicate, especially because all 4 contributors have actually pushed something to this folder. Okay, now let's actually look at some of the contributors just to see, some of their history and if they are actively working on other projects. So as you can see here, this person has been, active since 2022. So this isn't an overnight project where they are just, pushing activity to make it seem like they are legit. This guy has actually been doing a lot of work for years now. And the SW Query repo is pinned here. So again, that's a good sign. That means that, he's actively showing people about his work. So he's not afraid of it. He's not hiding it. Similar story here. This developer has actually been active since 2020. And as you can see, not a ton of commits, but definitely not zero, and it has been continuously more and more commits as time has gone on. And as you can see here in 2025, he's off to a pretty good start. Okay, so I actually just did some digging on Twitter and I found this guy's it's the same GitHub that we were actually just looking at. And he is followed by Toli, which is the co-founder of Solana. So that is a very good sign. To me, that's an indication that this guy has been working on projects on Solana for a while now. If Toli is familiar with him and following him, and he only has 480 followers, that usually says that, he has probably worked on some pretty cool projects in the past. So far, this is a big green flag on SW Query. And so far, the team gets a check mark from me, as well as, the quality of the tech, the activity. All right, so let's continue down this list. And now let's check if there is a percentage of the token supply that is locked from the team. And a quick, easy way we can do this is actually just typing in Streamflow on the search filter on Twitter for their account. And as you can see, they don't have anything. So let's talk about what this means. Okay, so I'm subbing in a new token here that actually I know for a fact does have a percentage of their supply locked. And essentially what we're looking for here is we want to verify that the team is actually putting away a percentage of their tokens to vest over a certain period of time. And we can find all that information by simply viewing their token on Streamflow. And essentially what Streamflow does is it allows projects to lock a percentage of their tokens and have specific unlock periods for that, which basically instills confidence in the holders of token and ensures that the team supply isn't going to just get dumped on the open market. So basically all of these unlock periods are different based on the team and how they set up their vesting contracts, but essentially what you're looking for here is the end time when these tokens are actually going to be released from the team. But as you can see here, a percentage of the token supply unlocks gradually over time. So there are certain dates and certain periods of time where tokens are going to be unlocked. And you can see all of that information down here if you really want to dig into it. So this is something that I am always looking for in these AI tokens specifically, because if they are doing this, it usually is a good indication that they are there for the long term, because again, there is no risk of the team being able to destroy the price of the token because of a ton of selling. Okay, and let's keep moving down the list here. Quality of tech is pretty self-explanatory. Does the actual technology work on the token? You should be able to actually test the product yourself. I would always recommend using a burner account, but again, you can usually vet this very easily for yourself. Team activity is also pretty self-explanatory. Let's look at SW Query quickly. They posted 25 minutes ago, 34 minutes ago, 22 hours ago, 4 hours ago. So as you can see, this account is quite active. So that is a check mark in my book. Okay, and continuing down the list, marketing prowess is pretty case by case, but essentially what I like to look for is just some sense of professionality. I want to see that the team looks committed and that they're actually spending a lot of time on their visual content. I want them to be proud of the product that they're putting out. So I want to see, cool graphics, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, and let's keep moving down to tokenomics. Again, I already talked about this, but Pudgy Penguins is the perfect example. Some tokens will release their tokenomics publicly, and that is the best place to view it, but sometimes you will have to do a little digging or maybe even ask the team. Every token's tokenomics are different, so again, the best way is probably to ask somebody on the team. If the team isn't really available, you should probably do a lot more digging, because that might be an indication that they don't have it outlined and they don't really care about the project, and it could be a rub. And then quality of team we already went over, and then community is pretty self-explanatory, right? Is there a large group of people who are paying attention to this token? Do they have, a large amount of followers on Twitter? Some of these things can be good indications for you when you're basically trying to understand if there is a large number of people actually following the project. Because it's important to note that there are a lot of projects that have fake follower accounts. So I always honestly like to do a quick scroll through and just see who the verified followers are. But again, this is case by case, because if you see a token that, joined Twitter on, let's just say January 13th, 2025, yesterday, and they have 100,000 followers, it probably isn't legit. So just use common sense and your best judgment on community. But then we'll move on to memes now. Okay, so this is the list of things that I'm paying attention to for Memecoin specifically. And again, all of these things in the middle here, I'm looking at for both AI and memes always. So this is generally applicable to everything. And then these are more specific branches based on the type of token. And basically the first example we went over with Concho is going to basically cover most of this, but there are a few new terms here, so let's go over it. Okay, so the first thing on the list is bundles. And if you guys don't know what a bundle is, I'm going to show you right now what you need to look out for and the tools that you need to use to actually discover if there are bundles on certain tokens and not. Okay, so the tool that I use to scan for bundles is Trench Radar Scanner, and essentially what I'm doing is I am entering a pump fund address. So this was actually a horrible example with MLG token, but I am typing in a CA with /bundle beforehand, and then they are going to give me an analysis of the token. And essentially what a bundle is a percentage of the supply basically that a lot of the holders of the token don't realize have been sent from the initial team that launched the token to other wallets. And essentially they can be keeping a certain percentage of the supply on numerous amounts of other wallets and end up selling that supply on top of your head and drastically reducing the price of the token. So it's always important that you are aware, especially on meme coins, if there are bundles on the tokens before you're buying them. So for example, I scanned this random token Leroy a few days ago, and basically this token was bundled very heavily, and the team was holding 30% of the supply that the rest of the holders did not know about unless they used a tool like this. And essentially this is a really good indication of telling you whether or not the team has good intentions or bad intentions. But I will say that most tokens are bundled these days, especially pump fund tokens, especially meme coins. So it's just best practice to honestly scan all of them. I have a whole other video going over everything you need to know about bundles, so if you want to check it out, this is it. So okay, moving down the list, let's talk about Web3 relevancy quickly. And if you've watched my other videos, you also know what this means. But essentially, what does this token that you're looking at and researching have in relevant correlation to the Web3 space? So for example, like celebrity tokens normally don't do very well with the people in the Web3 community because it doesn't have any connection to Web3, right? There are people who are entering the Web3 space and trying to make meme coins, but they don't actually have any connection to the Web3 space. So those tokens, in my opinion, are a lot less likely to do well. So I always like to look for meme coins specifically with Web3 relevancy. One of the best examples of that would be something like Whiff, dog with hat. It's just a stupid, silly Web3 joke, and the whole premise behind this meme coin is that the dog has a hat, and that is what these people find really funny about it, and that is basically the value prop of this token. And honestly, this one is worth $1.60 right now, 1.6 billion market cap. So that is why Web3 relevancy is important. Okay, so things like the engagement / holder growth, team activity, CTO or not. If you don't know what a CTO is, that's a community takeover. But those things I think are a little more self-explanatory. So let's jump into insiders / snipers. So if you're looking at a lot of new tokens that have recently launched, you probably have noticed already if you're on a trading bot like Photon that they have these buttons here that indicate a few different things. So for example, the dev bought there, a sniper bought there, and then dev sold, sniper sold. On some of the more popular launches, you're gonna see a ton of these sniper bot buttons basically, and you're also going to see a lot of insider trading buttons. There aren't any on this token right now. I'll find another example. Okay, I couldn't really find a good new launch example, so just reviewing this here, but this is what I'm talking about. This is showing that the insider bought or an insider sold here, and essentially what this usually means is that somebody got a certain amount of tokens sent to them by the deployer of the token, and this is usually what people mean by a bundle, but a lot of this is case by case, so I don't really want to go too into it right now. It'll probably be in a future video. Okay, but these things are really important to look out for because again, there could be situations where an insider is getting a large amount of tokens sent to them for free and they have no real buy-in, so they're more willing to dump those tokens, and it could negatively impact the price of the token drastically. And the same thing with snipers, right? They can buy a ton of tokens for a very small amount of money, and they don't really have a ton of consequence if the token goes to zero. So they're more willing to try and get as much money out of it as possible. And the same thing can basically be said about KOLs. So if there is a big KOL or key opinion leader in a token, you do want to verify if they have a large percentage of the supply, because again, they usually don't have a large buy-in on those tokens, so they care less about them and they could negatively impact the community. So all of these things here are things that I am personally looking at when I am researching tokens. And obviously this is case by case, right? So the more tokens that you research and the more time you spend in this space, the more of an eye you start to develop for a lot of these things. So for example, I can normally look at the distribution of a token and pretty much tell if there are nasty bundles or not. And I also can just look at the narrative of the token and see if it is Web3 relevant or not. As you can see, there's a lot of overlap between these terms, but the more practice you give it, the easier this stuff gets. And again, the goal at the end of the day is to really answer the question, is it worth the risk of investing into the, whatever token it may be? And at the end of the day, I can answer this question sometimes in a few of these bullet points, or it takes me a ton of these bullet points depending on the token. But I really hope that this video has given you guys a better understanding of really what you should be looking for in any of the tokens you're researching, no matter what the narrative or the meta of the token is. And at the end of the day, all of this is case by case. So again, you need to be doing this by the situation. And obviously there are a lot more nuances that go with basically all of these bullet points. So if you guys really want me to break down this video in further detail, I certainly can. So just let me know in the comments if you want to see that. And if you guys really want to see this going on in real time, feel free to enter one of my online communities. They're 100% free and we do this stuff all day long. But guys, that is going to wrap up the video for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it and I hope you learned something. And with that, I will see you guys in the video for tomorrow. So thank you so much for watching.